this time, because I think 49% of the electorate is women. It's quite substantial. So I just thought we'll frame the issues first, and then opening statement for each of our participants, Sangeeta, Uday and Somnath, and then we'll have a discussion, and towards the end we will talk about, we'll give you a chance to ask questions of the panelists or any of us. Just a few simple statistics. I think in the last 10 years, I think the proportion of women in the electorate has gone up from somewhere around 47% in 2004, it's now about 49%. So they are now closer to their proportion in the total population, which is about 48.4%. The difference though is that women's participation in elections is far lower than their electoral composition. So usually there is a 5 to 10% gap in the difference between male voting and female voting. And this makes all the difference. And one of the reasons for it could be that it's far more difficult for a woman to go out and vote, because she looks after the house and the timings may not be right. There may be so many things that are wrong with it. Other thing is, most of the issues have failed to excite women to come out and vote. It could be that the political parties are too driven by male-dominated issues or things that don't really, they aren't, recently of course we've seen the Delhi protests and other things where other issues are coming to the fore, maybe they have started participating in. In fact, in the last 4 elections, an interesting change has happened, that is the December results which we saw. All in Delhi, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. Except Madhya Pradesh, women proportion of voting is almost equal to the men. Only in Madhya Pradesh it was about 3% less than men. In Rajasthan, interestingly, a woman chief minister came to power with a higher proportion of women voting. So all these are signs that things may be changing, but we shall frame the issue as we go along. So on the broader thing, today is National Voters Day, and there can be no greater issue today than to say how come 49% are not making a difference to the electorate. Uday, would you like to make an opening statement on what you think are the important issues here?
If women haven't voted, I mean, if women do not vote in the numbers that they should, and they haven't done so in the last 65 years or thereabouts of the Republic, then we need to wonder why. It's a very, very serious thing, and there must be some reason why for 65 years, despite all the challenges that they face, they haven't found it worthwhile to vote. It must, and you know, the answer should not be that far away to seek. They consider it an irrelevant exercise. And only thing that I have to say is that the irrelevance is at multiple levels. First of all, what the elections are designed to deliver is of very little relevance to them. The considerations on which the elections are fought are equally irrelevant. And the logistics of going and casting a vote is really, really loaded against them. So it's a combination of the 3 things, from the beginning of the electoral, the political process to the end of the process where they have to actually go and physically cast their votes, is just loaded against them. And over a period of time, they have realized that they don't figure in the discourse. I mean, look at the reality of Indian politics. The reality of Indian politics is that all the discourse is on totally irrelevant issues that do not matter to people on a daily basis. Whether it is in real terms, the elections happen on things like caste, on money power, etc., in which, you know, they are not participating. The men folk from their families participate, are beneficiaries and actors in that, so they go and vote, and women do not vote. As Jagannathan said, in the last elections, etc., when we've seen women, when women's issues have actually in the last year or 2 have seriously come to the forefront, women have found probably a certain reason to come and vote, and that's why in my hypothesis the voting percentages by women has been going up.
Sangeeta, you have a view on these things, because if men have not framed the issues properly and failed to interest women in the electoral process, whether coming out and vote, why is it that women are not helping shape the issues? I mean, is it that they are not feeling sufficiently empowered? What do you think is your take on this?
As you know, as a citizen and as a woman, I may have conflicting views. You know, the point of view as a woman will be slightly different. I come from an empowered kind of family where I was taught to think and react accordingly. So I was very comfortable voting from the very beginning. I followed issues. I was concerned about my locality, and I voted. This is my individual, independent kind of perspective. But I have seen that women are, in a strange way, somehow unengaged with the process or with the environment sometimes. You know, हमें लगता है कि हमारे से क्या फ़र्क पड़ेगा. जिससे I see this entire line of young women sitting. आपकी मैं बात कर रही हूँ. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6th line में आप लोग जब सब young girls बैठे हैं. Do you vote? Do you not vote? And I wonder why. No, I think, you know, we need to be very confident of the fact that we will make an impact. We do count in the political system, and even though we have a patriarchal kind of setup, I believe voting is gender insensitive. I mean, it is in that sense gender agnostic. It doesn't really care about your gender. The vote counts for what it counts. I believe we must become aware of our own power, engage, and continue to want to move ahead and participate in the processes that govern this country. Let's say a one-off, it will be a one-off event. Vote kar diya, kisi ke influence se papa ne kaha jao vote kar do. The husband said, aao mere saath, I'm supposed to vote for X, come along with me. Or if the collective, if the community says, we're all going to support X because he has promised us Y. That shouldn't be happening. I think we should see ourselves beyond gender. I believe that women should see at a certain level, we should be gender agnostic completely. We should remain in the capsule of a citizen who is empowered and who has the power to influence her local government. So I somehow feel that we have been unorganized. Let's not call ourselves disorganized. I think we are in many ways unorganized, perhaps at various levels, and we do not have the conviction that we will make that difference. If we are half the population and if we all go out and vote, aren't we going to change the nature of the government that comes into place? So I believe it has to be articulated. Like we were discussing earlier, the Jagore campaign for Tata Tea, आपने सबने देखा होगा, where this girl tells her husband, you know, she kind of ticks him off and reminds him that women matter. मुझे लगता है women as a community, we should engage. हमें अपनी vote का value पता होना चाहिए और हम खुद अपना decision लेके we should vote. And it should start at the college level. As soon as you're of voting age, I think you should believe that you're going to make a difference and engage. For the past X many years, if we haven't made a difference, perhaps we should start now. That's the theme. I believe we are disorganized and kind of, let's say, impulsive, or it's very short term, you know, we just do it emotionally and then we go away from the system. We completely disengage from the system. वो मुझे लगता है हमें नहीं करना चाहिए, and we have the ability to remain engaged with the system, to remain organized. I think we must organize. मुझे लगता है कि we should also be a collective. एक ऐसी constituency जिसमें दम हो, जो count करे. Women as a constituency, you know, we are never seen as one constituency. All the other groups are, पहले से मालूम है कि ये सब constituencies है और ये vote करेंगे. If we can somehow articulate that we are organized and we are going to vote, then I think our constituency will count.
Somnath, I thought it might be a good idea to look at some of the institutions that will bring about this change. The media is a critical part of the engagement process because it amplifies what's happening in politics, whether it is for women, against women, what the issues are framed. Media helps frame it in some way. So as a media watcher, what do you think has been the Indian media's role so far, and would you like to expand on whether it can make a difference in this whole process of making the women voter more relevant to the electoral process?
I mean, I think I'm slightly skeptical of the way the debate has been framed today.
Okay.
First of all, there's a presupposition that there's a cause and effect. Media will do something and the entire country's women will react to it. That's impossible. That will not happen. There are educated urban women, there are rural women, women of different sorts. Women as a composite body, I'm slightly skeptical of. People don't react like that. Like 50 million people, women will not react in a particular way. That is one. Secondly, we are expecting a highly privatized corporate media to have a certain social responsibility. First of all, let's be very clear on this, that the private media's responsibility is first to their shareholders, no one else. We have been completely subsumed by a rating culture for many years, which Uday tells me now has gone finally, since last week. So you cannot expect this media to play this socially relevant role continuously. That cannot happen. And thirdly, even if certain sections of the media do think of socially relevant campaigns, which they do, generally, definitely they do, all of the country's women will not react in the same way. We have to admit, first of all, that we are a highly patriarchal society. Even in this debate, we are 3 men and 1 woman. That's the kind of society we live in. So let's start, media is not going to be our sole savior. There has, government at different levels, and we can talk solutions today, but let's be quickly disown the fact that there is some kind of a body which will save us.
Right. So let's look at institutions one by one. We are talking about the media now. Uday, you can say something about the media.
I think Somnath is a veteran media analyst who's done that for over a decade, and I have lots of respect for that. But I think I have to disagree with him when he says that highly privatized corporate media will not look at this. I'll give you 2 examples. If anything, I think it is because of the participation, because media is highly privatized corporate, and as he says, has a certain commitment to its shareholders. Media has to recognize the fact that almost 50% of the population are women, and they, as such, they're huge consumers of media, and that's why they have to stay relevant to media. I'll give you 2 examples. The Jagori campaign that Sangeeta has been mentioning wasn't done by the Election Commission, wasn't done by Indian Parliament, wasn't done by any political party, it was done by a private sector corporate with huge commitment to media. Last year at Star Network, we did a show called Satyamev Jayate, where, which was very, very heavily loaded in favor of women's issues that hadn't been taken by anybody. So I think, yes, media is corporatized, and somebody has to put in the money, and the guy who puts in the money wants a return on investment. There's nothing wrong with that. But that by itself does not load the media against women's issues. And just the fact that you're not corporatized, please tell me how much the non-corporate media of this country, the Doordarshan, has done towards pushing women's issues.
Not only am I a media watcher, I was a journalist for about 10 years too. So this debate is going to go on. Yes, Satyamev Jayate was a socially relevant program, but it worked very well because of Amir Khan. So the basics of why things work. The reason what I'm trying to also say is that the first responsibility of a corporatized media is to their shareholders. Everything else comes second. So the fact that there is a socially relevant programming done at a certain point of time and the TRPs worked for that, shot up hugely, great, it worked. But we cannot expect a highly corporatized media to play a relevant role continuously. That was my point.
Now, correct me if I was wrong, but Satyamev Jayate took up a lot of issues. The only issue it did not take up was women's security, was violence against women, and it was around, I think, one of the incidents.
I have to say,
Maybe I
not watching it.
Maybe I wasn't watching it. I don't think it took up issues of violence against women, not in terms of sexual violence. It took up a lot of other violence issues. इसमें हमारा कोई लड़ाई नहीं है. I'm just saying कि ये मुझे issue याद नहीं है कि ये हुआ कि नहीं, but मुझे ऐसा लगा कि violence against women का issue नहीं लिया गया था. He corrects me, I sit corrected. Bindas. Now about the media, I somehow believe, irrespective of the economies at play, irrespective of agendas and priorities and survival issues, whatever, if the media decides, and the media is really not the custodian of everything that should be right in this country, but because the media is so powerful and let's say omnipresent, it's like a blanket that covers, the blanket of communication बुलाते हैं उसको, it covers us. हर तरफ media है. If all media, let's not target television, films, radio, television, print, and any other media that you can think of, if we consistently attack an issue, whether it is patriarchy or misogyny or this whole mindset problem, consistent, regular onslaught. जैसे marathon, Bombay Marathon, it's all pervasive. The information is all around the city. Everywhere you go, you have an ad for the run marathon. Okay, the motivations are different. I fundamentally believe that if the media takes up an issue and wants to go crazy over it, it can. The Aam Aadmi Party claims that it is not a media phenomenon, but it was. All the issues that the media has laid focus on have blown out of proportion because the media decided to take up the issue. If we regularly mention issues, if we start mentioning that yes, women as a constituency get organized, आप लोग खुद, हम लोग खुद, हमें organized होना चाहिए, and we should make an impact, we should want to be in parliament, want to be a part of the legislation making process. If the media were to consistent, and it's not the responsibility of the media, ये मैं मानती हूँ, responsibility किसी और की, हमारी खुद की है, but अगर media चाहे तो क्या नहीं कर सकता is my question.
But scary, that always is the editorial media. That one person takes
No, I think the only flaw in what the argument is, the media is not one entity. I mean, it's several things. There are hundreds of them, disaggregated voices, diverse voices. So to expect all of them to come and on one issue and just blow it consistently for, let's say, a year is unlikely. Anyway, I'm sure as media gets more conscientized on this, it will certainly start playing a role. And we have seen after the Delhi gang rape protests, I think the issue did come to the fore. A law was changed, but society has not changed. So there's a lot more that needs to be done beyond the media. So for that, you need people to organize. Let's look at another institution which can play a role in this. One is the Election Commission of India. Okay, I think Uday, you had a point. I think though a lot of people, I think we have increased the number of women registered and all that. The difference has not yet been made. Women power in elections. Do you have a point on this?
Yeah, I have a point of view on that. I'm not sure if there is anyone from the Election Commission here. But today is the National Voters' Day, so I think it's relevant to make that point. That, let's just step back and see why people vote. I mean, on the day of voting, you have to make an effort. Whatever you're doing, it's a disruption of your daily routine. You have to go to the, you have to first decide. And for the decision to be made, you have to first grapple with the whole process. In your mind, the whole thing has to register that there are these candidates, it's a meaningful, relevant initiative going on, and I need to participate in this. And take the trouble or make the effort of going there, waiting in the queue, identifying yourself, and then going and casting the vote. Now, the Election Commission in this country has done a whole lot of things. But please tell me if any one of you remembers even one initiative that it has done specifically to encourage or promote voting by women in the last 65 years. I do not recall any such initiative. It has done a remarkable job in cutting down on the participation of criminals, money power, all kinds of things. There are lots of things that the Election Commission has done very well. But encouraging women to vote is not one. And for women, it's not even easy. Let's just step back. That let's look at rural areas first of all. The constituencies, in order to get to a polling booth, you have to walk significant distances. Women have to manage households. They have, unlike men, who have relative flexibility in their daily schedules. They can easily go in a group, go and cast votes, come back and spend 2, 3, 4 hours. It's a bit of a picnic also for the men. For women, it means taking time off from their daily chores, managing the household, looking after children, doing the wash, getting water, whatever else they have to do. And when they go there, they have to stand in the queue. There is not even a dedicated voting hour for women. After 65 years, we haven't even done it that, from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, just to make it easier for women. There will be fewer people, waiting time will be less. I can go there as a woman and cast my vote faster and come back. So we haven't even brought in simple bureaucratic efficiencies to encourage women to vote. Now look at the whole process of campaigning and canvassing. Again, the campaigns are laid out. They're largely, the way the entire election campaign is done. Rallies, speeches, it's very outdoor centric. How many volunteers go and engage with women and explain to them, connect with them, talk to them, motivate them to come out and vote? Look at the number of women candidates and look at the number of specific women issues that get taken up. So I think between both the political parties and the Election Commission, they have completely left the women, they haven't felt the need to target. I mean, I think I'm willing to give the Election Commission the benefit of doubt that it's just not been on its radar. But as far as the political parties are concerned and the political activists are concerned, I think the act has been the outcome of a far more sinister design to keep women out of the process. Because the current political discourse and the current political objectives are very heavily focused on making sure that the goals of a very, very patriarchal, masculine, testosterone-driven society are delivered. So, when the critical drivers of political process are power, muscle, caste, crime, and cash, tell me, where do women figure in the daily equation here? That makes it even worse. The man goes and takes money. Today the cash infiltration is becoming so much more, because when the political volunteer goes and gives the cash, he doesn't go around giving it to everybody. He goes and gives it to the patriarch of the family. So somebody collects the cash and says, I will deliver votes from my side. The entire process has been so badly, so heavily there's been such a huge design flaw in this that women willy-nilly find it difficult to participate in that. So that's why fixing it is not going to be very easy. And I don't think it's on anybody's radar. Don't forget that for more than 20 years, we have struggled to give reservation to women in Lok Sabha and Assembly seats. And for one reason or the other, in this country where every day somebody recognizes somebody as a minority, latest last week was Jains, who were recognized as a minority as if they were dying, for lack of that minority status. They have been identified as a minority community, and hence they will get all the benefits. Reservation for women in Lok Sabha and assemblies has been denied for one reason or the other. Because, again, if women were to come in, there would be a problem. The traditional power equations will change, because the concerns that women carry are very different from the concerns that their men folk carry. The concern of the men. You do not want a disruptive force, namely women, to come into parliament or legislative bodies. So that's my submission.
Since there's nobody to bat for the Election Commission, I will take two points that will support that fact. I think in the last 10 years, the Election Commission has reduced the level of violence and muscle power substantially. Even though this is not directly a women's issue, the fact that you have been able to do it, you organize special forces, you organize now elections over 2 months so that you have adequate security where the polling booths are there, booth capture and all other thing, almost a thing of the past. So I think the minute you make things safer, automatically more women will come in. And that you're seeing that in the last election, you saw women voting was as high as men. And you just 4 assembly elections and you conducted it over 1.5 or 2 months, which shows that you have, by addressing purely neutral issues, you have also addressed a part of the women's issues. That is one. The second thing is, I think the Election Commission, by consistently focusing on criminals, display of, in fact, there's another thing. I mentioned cash in jest, but the fact is, political parties have actually started addressing even the issue of bribery from a women's point of view. I think there are saris being distributed, there are TV sets being distributed on the assumption that women are going to sit at home and watch TV. So they are being moved in a different way. So it's not like the cash is not reaching them. Maybe the cash is reaching the cash and drinks are reaching the men, and the saris and television sets are reaching the women. So the political process is taking care of it, but in the wrong way, but it's happening. So many things like that are happening, so we need to take it over. Anyway, Somnath, you might have something to say on this.
First of all, I think Uday and I disagree only on how the media is run in the country. Everything else I agree with. Fantastic points. But one of the things also to remember here is that voting and democracy, we're talking about how we live our lives, what kind of people we are. So in that scenario, women's empowerment must be looked at a larger scale. So it starts with much earlier before the voting or election commission. It's about education at every level of our lives. So unless we change, I think this kind of piecemeal solutions, where the election commission will work, where the media will work, it's a very piecemeal efforts. Today, we're not talking about women and voting. It's how women exist in this country and how they should exist in this country. That's what we're talking about.
See, as long as we are vulnerable as a force, women, we tend to be put in a spot, we are cornered, we are in in that sense, confined. You know, our first fundamental issue, I think, as women, bachpan se leke forever, is safety, is personal safety. I think it is safety and dignity above everything else. So if governments can get together and legislate to make safety a serious concern, for X many years, what have they tried? Whether it is the judicial system or whether it is the legislative bodies, in spite of rulings and in spite of laws and in spite of acts, we continue to be unsafe. We continue to be a vulnerable class, always. Whether it is direct physical confrontations, attacks, or misogynistic attitudes, or condescension, that whole act, it cannot change by legislation, that cannot. What can change? हम कैसे बदल सकते हैं इस बात को? The rule of the law. I think what we need is strong laws, immediate punishment, deterrence. Once women feel safe, then I think we flower, we bloom, we flourish, we become something. We become important and independent. अगर हम शुरू से अपनी safety के concerns को fight करते रहेंगे, हम कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते हैं. We cannot do anything. So I think the government of India, any body, any institution that has the power to do so, must ensure that safety, crime and punishment wala. You must have punishment, immediate punishment for crime. Per 16 December, aaj tak justice has not been complete nahi hua wo story. It has been delivered, but the final full stop on that story has not been laid. There is no peace in that household. Why? Because the process is still on. ये मुझे कभी समझ नहीं आता और ना आया है. I think bodies, whoever we are, irrespective of what we say here, we're just suggesting, making, conversation. Today I am doing the monologue, but eventually it is about putting systems in place. If there is a law which can deliver action, how does this happen? It happens in government. Who does it? It's the parliamentarians. Who goes into parliament? Mostly men go into parliament. Some women also do. I think legislation makes a huge impact. Immediate justice, punishment, deterrence, एक ऐसी हवा जिससे हमें लगे कि yeah, safety is ensured in this country. Then you see the change that will, let's say, follow or seg. Because these are effects that come one after the other. This could be a very personal kind of view. It's not perhaps as a journalist. I'm not a journalist, as a writer or as an observer. This could be me as a person, because me as a person, I am vulnerable. I am always under threat in that sense. What am I looking for? I am looking for stronger legislations. I'm looking for results. How do the results come about? मेरा रोना, हमारा जो question है या हमारी demand क्या है? We demand stronger legislations, immediate justice. My discomfort is with how will we achieve this? Even in parliament, we have only X many women. How will we come into a position of consolidation? How do we arrive वहाँ पे? ऐसा लगता है बहुत ही utopian सा thought लगता है. It seems as if we will never get there. But I believe, just as in Delhi, there was a movement, and all of you saw it on television, it was playing out. The media was supporting that movement post the incident. We did have power being demonstrated. Youth ka power was demonstrated, demands were being made. Similarly, I think if women, are able to somehow ensure that at the final level, जहाँ पे legislation होता है, ये बन के रहे, then things will change. Otherwise, ये discussion और debate यहीं तक सीमित है. Real action on grounds never happen. My thing is, where is the link going? Till the last link. I want this to be connected till the last link, which is Parliament, eventually. What is the government of India doing? And of course, legislative bodies and judicial bodies. I mean, huge questions on their existence. I mean, do you really have the power? What are you doing? Those are like real questions. मैं यहाँ बहुत ही intellectual, pretentious सी बात कह के चली जाऊँ, उसका कोई तुक नहीं है. I am talking of a real issue. मैं यहाँ से जब बाहर जाऊँगी, 9:30-10 बजे के बाद जब मैं बॉम्बे में या दिल्ली में सड़क पे अकेले घूमूंगी, तब मेरा क्या होगा? आई एम ओनली कंसर्न अबाउट दैट. मेरी शुरुआत और मेरा अंत उस फियर से होता है. If I am free in this country, then I can participate in the electoral process. Half the women don't come out and participate because of these concerns, other than the things that Mr. Shankar was mentioning about, that they run, you know, households. There are many issues are under their, let's say, you know, they're handling too many things. But fundamentally, I think it's issues of dignity. Safety eventually means dignity. Dignity will bring empowerment. That's always been my theme, bachpan se. I think it will continue to remain. Let's see how I can organize us, yaar. मुझे कुछ करना चाहिए.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Sangeeta on the issue of safety and security and, you know, the physical aspect of it. You know, we all are sensitive to that. I have a daughter, I have a wife, and we're conscious that in a city like Delhi or Bombay, when your daughter goes out, you want to be reassured that she is safe. So, you know, even though I'm a man, I'm totally seized of the problem. And for everybody, it's reached a level of paranoia, I guess. But I just have one point to make. We always somehow start saying that we need to first fix that and then we'll go to fix the other problems. To my mind, this is the outcome. You know, if you want to fix this, it will be the outcome of other fixes that you will achieve. You can't start with that. The society has become so insensitive, so hostile, so dangerous to women because of a lot of things that we haven't done. Because our parliament, you know, is so insensitive to women's issues, hence it hasn't passed the enabling legislation. It hasn't created or invested in institutions that would go on to make women's safety a primary issue. It hasn't done the police reforms that would make, you know, the police more sensitive to women's issues. It hasn't done the judicial reforms. It hasn't done a whole series of downstream things. And as a result of that, you have created a society that looks like, you know, a completely wild jungle for most women. So unless we fix the fundamental issues that go on to determine and influence or restructure the core social institutions, we'll all be living with these threats, regardless of how seriously, you know, we consider those threats.
There are two issues connected with this. One is, unless the fundamental law to change, I think we have changed a hell of a lot of laws that are supposed to help women. We had the domestic violence bill, we had the anti-dowry bill, we had the recent rape laws being changed. We have changed every possible law, but nothing has actually changed. The reason is, the core law that needs changing is the Women's Representation in Parliament bill. Because if you have 33% women, the laws that will get passed will be completely different than if you have just 11% women in Parliament, 11% in Lok Sabha, 11% in Rajya Sabha. And if you assume that the Rajya Sabha women are largely nominated and not really there for their own reasons, only the Lok Sabha women are the elected ones. So you actually have 5.5% real women's representation in Parliament, 800 seats. Whereas if this were to change to 33%, it would be fundamental. Why are we passing 200 laws which are supposed to favor women when you're not passing the one law that will actually ensure that every other law works? That's the thing. The other thing is, it's also a question of role of government, and I think we have not isolated two basic issues. One is public goods and private goods. Politicians are very keen to distribute private goods. What is a private good? You want to give free food, you want to give free this, you want to free that, free TV. They are very happy to give these things. But the public good which benefits everybody, that is safety, a good police force, a good crime system, a good legal system that will ensure justice, that is the last thing you want to do. So the public good you will do last, but you will legislate every possible freebie in the world to buy off votes. So that's the fundamental thing that needs to be fixed in the next 5 years.
Just kind of summing up what is going on, Sangeeta has been saying this needs and that needs. I have probably 3 wishes for a utopian India. First of all, policies need to change, which is legislation. So therefore the 33% comes in. Second, I would love to see a media which informs people about those policies, empowers them. And third, strong agencies which can enact those policies. If these 3 things happen, we have a better India, better for men and women. But this is going to take a long term. This is not going to be 2014 or 2015 elections. 65 years we have landed up in this mess. A long-term policy change needs to come in. But these I think are the 3 stages which probably will be my utopian India.
देखिए, from Delhi, because I come from that city, I have seen the impact of activism. You saw what Mr. Kejriwal was doing on the streets. एक certain amount of activism हम सब में आ रही है, मुझे लगता है. In the media also, I think we have a certain amount of activism, and on the ground also there is a certain amount of activism. इसी point को अगर हम convert करें, तो we can start making these demands that we want to make. नहीं तो इस conference hall के बाहर कोई translation नहीं होगा of what we are saying. So just remember कि थोड़ा शोर, थोड़ा हल्ला गुल्ला, थोड़ा demand, we can do it and perhaps we should. I'm just saying we should be a little activistic, not entirely like Mr. Kejriwal, but activism, in a bit of the personality कि थोड़ा कुछ चाहिए तो कुछ करना पड़ेगा. So a little activism I think should come into us. हम लोग बैठे रहेंगे तो things are not going to change.
My question is, if you go the other side, this country after independence has been ruled by women from the center for majority of the time, and many states also. None of the people in power who are women have done anything for women. Any comment on that? They are also doing men's issues only.
Okay, my view is very simple, that the women who make it to the top in a man's world tend to develop either masculine values, or they feel that's the only way they can succeed. And they probably do not have a support group where they can actually bounce off their own ideas and what they need to do. And so the end result is they don't serve the purposes of women. So which is why a 33% reservation would help, because you would have a cabinet that's having a huge support group of women. Here if you'll have one woman whose only job is women and
but there also they will look at all men's issues, 33 or they are more men than women.
No. Once they do that, they will frame the issues different. Yeah, please.
Sir, I think the question that you asked underlines one fundamental point. That also tells you the limitations of an individual, no matter which position you hold. That if the entire system and all the institutions are designed in a certain way, then the institutions metamorphose the individual than the other way around. This is a country where women chief executives were still very, very rare. That's when it got a prime minister as a woman as a prime minister. In 1966, Mrs. Gandhi became the prime minister. And since then, we have had consistently, as you said, many women who have been very powerful. We have more women chief ministers today than any point in the past. The single most powerful Indian politician is a woman. And yet we are in this situation. Primarily because we have left it to individuals to fix this. And that is why, you are absolutely right. I don't think reservation in parliament, 33% will be a game changer by itself, but it will be a very strong beginning, and that's why it's being registered so strongly. Today, a woman who comes to power is supported by men in the pursuit of power, is surrounded by men. The agenda that's created is all created by men, and she knows she will stay in power only on the back of the votes and support that she gets from men. So, in the process, there is a whole, patriarchization of the woman that happens. So, actually, the women that you see today are all men in women's clothes.
But if I flip the question in maternal societies, is what is being said, do women have more rights in maternal societies?
Matriarchal.
Kerala is a maternal society, but matriarchal is run like
But 99% of human society is patriarchal.
I'm Shankar from Agni Prasthana, and I've been working on the Women's Bill since 1995, when it was first proposed. And at that time, you'd be surprised at India as well as the neighboring countries had all women prime ministers.
very powerful.
Yeah, exactly. And today you see a number of women are at the head in the private sector, be it the industry, the banking sector, government as well, and including last year, FICCI was headed by a woman. But all these women have not been empowered. They have, by merit, they have come up. The real empowerment of a woman comes only by the political class, which is seen. But unfortunately, the political class does not want to hand over the power to the women. And this is where I have been seeing. Now, as per the proposed women's bill, they have mentioned 33% seats should be reserved for women. Now, this reservation is already there in the local self-government. But what happens is, because it is by lottery, the seats are reserved for women, the men who are representing that area area puts up the wife, auntie or niece or someone as a woman candidate. Indirectly, it is not empowering the woman. Instead, what since 95 I have been proposing is, let every political party put up either 1/3 or even 20% women candidates and let them face the men and win. After all, even in the present parliament, the women who have been there have been elected beating the men itself. So I think if this is the real empowerment that is there. And as she said, let the women be organized. We are still another 3 months or so for the elections. And even now, if the women, and also I would say men also, make a buzz that we will vote for the party who put up at least 20% women candidates, we will vote for the party, not otherwise. I think if this is taken forward, I'm sure the women would be empowered. Thank you.
We often hear that wherever there has been reservation, men go and put up their women candidates as their own surrogates, which is, as a matter of fact, it's quite true, but the implications are not quite as men would want it to be. Because initially when the women are put up, this has been the experience that many studies have been done in Madhya Pradesh Panchayats, in Bihar Panchayats, in many places people have seen this. The first time when the woman goes, she is under a bit of influence of the man who proposed her. However, slowly she acquires a worldview of her own, she acquires a position of her own, and very soon she is under nobody's control. We see that every day. You give somebody the instruments of authority, the person initially will be very deferential to you, but after some time the person will start asserting his or her own authority. And that's what we are seeing in the political process also. So I think as long as we do this institutional reservation, I think we would have moved the needle in a very big way.
Madam, the question is to you. You have been talking about safety and dignity of a woman. Do you think it is possible, as long as men are in this world, that women will get safety and dignity?
See, listen. My father, male, he ensured my safety and my dignity. He taught me to be strong. He taught me to beat up men if they were to challenge me on the road, and I have done so. As a youngster, I have beaten people up. And I teach this to all the women I come across, that do not be fearless. I don't think it's such a simple question, neither is it simplistic. If the men around you, it is the men around you who somehow empower you. Strangely, what an irony. If you have a great father, a great brother, a great husband, great friends in college, and then let's say great colleagues in parliament, let's hope that one day I also become a part of the process. Because I think mera engagement with this nation has begun. I think mera avatar badalne wala hai from being an author. No, I genuinely am concerned about this. I am genuinely concerned. My ultimate dream is to have a decent, progressive, modern India where women genuinely participate in all processes. Number one, women have to be talented. ये ऐसे मस्ती में चल रहे हैं, ये नहीं चलेगा. You have to be skilled and talented. You have to be respectable. You should be worthy, and then be a part of the process. मेरा point ये है कि जो हमारे इर्द-गिर्द, let's say support systems हैं, आधे तो मेल हैं, इसीलिए support है. So I really don't know whether the issue is about whether there will be safety and dignity. I think it's about a mindset thing. It's not easy to achieve. मेरे जिंदा रहने तक I don't know whether I will be able to achieve it. But काम करना मैं शुरू करूँगी. ये तो already plan था. मुझसे लोग पूछते हैं अगली कौन सी किताब आप लिख रहे हो? मैं उनको कह रही हूँ कि मुझे लगता है कुछ और करने वाली हूँ. नहीं, seriously, if we can only articulate, if I can only tell you that you have the power, you have to engage. जो राजपथ पे भी demonstration हुआ था, the men and the women were there together. I know there are issues, safety. You know, we are never completely secure. But it's about our demeanor, how we react. अगर मैं डर जाऊँ, वो एक अलग approach होगा. अगर मैं पिटाई कर दूँ आपकी, वो एक अलग अप्रोच होगा. मुझ में एक काबिलियत होनी चाहिए कि मैं आपको पीटने की कोशिश कर सकूं. तो एक माइंडसेट चेंज है. मुझ में ये भी एक जुनून होना चाहिए कि मुझे कुछ करना है, मुझे कुछ बनना है. इस पूरे प्रोसेस में स्ट्रेंथ की पोजीशन में आना है. I've always been like this because my father brought me up like this. So I support men. I'm only saying it's a mindset thing. अगर आप ये कह दो कि इस environment में आप disrespect नहीं कर सकते हो एक दूसरे को, it gender से भी बड़ी बात है. एक दूसरे को disrespect ना करें, एक दूसरे से let's say एक दूसरे के साथ communication में चलें. So there is overall development. All societies where we see progress have developed, have grown together. So I don't think it's itne choti baat hai. I think it's bigger than that.
The question that I have is, do you think the media, as in by that mean the newspapers and the television, do you think they're perpetuating a stereotype when they're publishing news? For example, girl walking down a road gets attacked versus girl walking alone on a road gets attacked. Putting the fault on the girl unknowingly or unintentionally, do you think the media should probably be more responsible when talking about things like that? Or is it just something that is accepted knowledge that everyone puts the blame on the woman?
Would you like to answer that? Yeah.
The simple answer is yes. Media does stereotype. It does it because it's part of the setup which is hegemonic, generally male. And even, it doesn't matter if it's women reporters or men reporters. We kind of imbibe what Uday was saying before, the male gaze. In psychoanalytic theory, this is called scopophilia. Women learn to see the world through the men's eyes. You go to a film, the camera fetishizes the woman's body, but the woman in the audience is seeing as the male. That happens all the time. So reporters, the media is not outside the society. As long as we are the way we are, media will be a part of it. We reflect who we are all the time. So yes, the simple answer is very much yes.